Before I tell you what happened, let me ask you, have you ever sacrificed everything for someone you love, only to be rewarded with the smallest token while watching someone else receive what should have been yours? Well, that's exactly what happened to me. And by the end of this story, you'll see why sometimes the cheapest gift carries the most painful truth. I raised Levi on my own after his father left when he was just 7. I worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3, just to keep a roof over our heads and food on the table. Every penny I saved went toward his education, his dreams, his future. So when he asked me for help expanding the family business after my husband passed, I didn't hesitate. I sold my house, the one I'd lived in for 40 years, and handed Levi $50,000. "This is your future," I told him. "Build it strong." He barely looked up when I gave him the check. No hug, no tears, just a muttered, "Thanks, Mom. This will help with the expansion." I told myself not to mind. Maybe he was stressed. Maybe he just didn't know how to show it. I pushed the sting down. But 3 weeks later, at the company's annual celebration, I learned just how much, or how little, I truly meant to him. If you sacrificed everything for someone you love and they treated your sacrifice like it meant nothing, would you call them out right there or stay quiet and let them show who they really are? Tell me in the comments before I reveal what happened next. The ballroom shimmered with crystal chandeliers and gold accents, filled with employees, clients, and family members. I'd bought myself a simple navy blue dress with small embroidered flowers, not too flashy, just enough to feel presentable. Levi took the stage, his voice booming with confidence. "Tonight, we celebrate another successful year at Henderson Construction. I couldn't have done it without the support of my family." My heart swelled. Finally, I thought, he's going to acknowledge the sacrifice I made. "Mom, could you come up here?" he asked, gesturing toward me. The crowd clapped politely as I made my way through the tables, cheeks flushed with pride. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a tiny gift bag. I held my breath as I opened it. Inside was a single silk flower, the kind you could buy at a gas station for $5. "It's beautiful," I managed, my throat tight. The applause was brief, awkward. Cameras flashed, but the moment already felt hollow. And then his voice brightened. "Now, I want to thank someone truly special. Patricia Lawson, my mother-in-law, has been an invaluable mentor." Rachel's mother glided onto the stage in her designer suit. Levi handed her a velvet box. When she opened it, the diamond ring inside caught the stage lights and scattered them like 1,000 stars. "A small token of appreciation," Levi announced proudly. "A $7,000 ring for the woman who's become family." The crowd erupted into thunderous applause. People stood, cheering. Patricia dabbed her eyes with a tissue, overwhelmed. And there I stood, holding my $5 flower, feeling the weight of betrayal press down like lead. The applause still thundered in my ears as I stepped off the stage, clutching that silk flower so tightly the plastic stem bent in my hands. People smiled at Patricia, congratulating her as if she had earned my son's gratitude. No one looked at me. No one noticed how pale my face had gone. In the restroom, I locked myself into a stall and sat down hard. The bright fluorescent light reflected in the little mirror above the sink. When I finally dared to look, I barely recognized the woman staring back. Her eyes were red, her mouth trembling. She looked disposable. When had I become so small? I had told myself for years that my sacrifices were worth it, that selling my house, giving Levi everything I had, was an investment in love, in family, in legacy. But standing there with that ridiculous flower in my hand, I realized it wasn't just thoughtless. It was a message. He didn't see me as the woman he raised him. He didn't see me as his partner in building his future. He saw me as outdated, replaceable. And Patricia? She wasn't just a mother-in-law anymore. She had been elevated, while I was being quietly erased. I splashed cold water on my face, but the sting in my chest wouldn't fade. I knew, deep down, something had shifted. This wasn't just about a flower or a ring. It was about respect, and I was done pretending I could live without it. The night air was crisp as I walked to my car, the silk flower lying limp in my hands. The sound of laughter and clinking glasses followed me out of the ballroom, but the moment I closed my door, silence pressed in heavy. I set the flower on the passenger seat. Its artificial petals caught the glow of the streetlight, mocking me with their brightness. $5. That's what my son thought my lifetime of sacrifice was worth. As I drove, the memories flooded back. Long nights when I worked 3 jobs to pay for Levi's tuition. Nights when he fell asleep in conference rooms while I vacuumed floors, whispering promises that one day he would have the life I never did. Every sacrifice had been for him. And yet, on the stage tonight, I hadn't been honored. I had been dismissed. My hands tightened around the steering wheel. The humiliation burned, but beneath it was something sharper. Something I hadn't felt in years. Clarity. They thought I was powerless because I no longer had the house, because I'd signed that check with trembling hands. They thought all I had left was sentiment. But they were wrong. Because what they didn't know, what Levi and Rachel could never imagine, was that I had kept something. A piece of the company, tucked away like a hidden weapon. And after tonight, I knew it was time to use it. The next morning, I tucked the wilted silk flower into a drawer, not as a keepsake, but as a reminder. Then I drove across town to the only person who had always told me the truth, Harold Morrison, my husband's old attorney. His office smelled of leather and old paper, the shelves lined with dusty law books. He looked up as I entered, his expression softening. "Claire," he said, standing to shake my hand, "I had a feeling I'd see you after that little display last night." I sank into the chair across from him. "They think I'm finished, Harold. They think I sold my house, gave away my savings, and have nothing left." He studied me for a moment. "But they're wrong, aren't you?" I slid a thin envelope across the desk. Inside were the documents I'd kept hidden for years, the original incorporation papers of the company, signed by my husband, listing me as co-owner, not just his wife. His eyes scanned the pages, then he looked up, a slow smile spreading across his face. 60% ownership. "Claire, you've been holding the majority all along." The knot in my chest loosened. For the first time in months, I didn't feel powerless. I felt strong. I whispered, "Then it's time. Time they learn exactly who they underestimated." Over the next week, I kept my movements quiet. On the surface, I was just the same old mother, smiling politely when Rachel called, nodding along when Levi mentioned his expansion plans. But behind closed doors, I was building something stronger than they could imagine. Harold and I met every other evening, combing through bank records, contracts, and company expenditures, and what we found only hardened my resolve. Tens of thousands of dollars had been funneled into executive entertainment, a trip to Paris, a new car, a jewelry purchase I recognized immediately, the $7,000 ring that had glittered on Patricia's hand while I clutched my $5 flower. The receipts were damning, but Harold had a better idea than a quiet confrontation. "You could take this to court tomorrow," he told me, sliding the papers back into a folder. "But if you really want them to understand what you've sacrificed and what they've taken, you'll need to reveal this on your stage, not theirs." I leaned back, my heart pounding. "You mean at the next company board meeting?" Harold's eyes glinted. "Exactly. Invite the board, invite the family, let them hear the truth from you. And when they try to dismiss you," he tapped the folder, "drop this on the table." For the first time since that humiliating night, I felt the fire return to my chest. They thought I was just a mother, weak and sentimental, but they were about to see me as something else entirely, the woman who held the power they'd been trying to bury. The boardroom was sleek and cold, all glass walls and polished oak. the kind of place where power was meant to be displayed. Levi walked in quietly, dossier folder in hand, dressed in a simple navy suit I hadn't worn since my banking days. Heads turned, some whispered. Levi leaned back in his chair, his smile tight. "Mom, this is a business meeting. Maybe you'd be more comfortable waiting outside." A few gasps rippled through the room. My cheeks burned, but I stayed standing. "Actually," I said calmly, sliding the folder onto the table, "I'm right where I belong." Harold entered behind me, his presence commanding instant respect. He placed copies of the documents in front of every board member. "Mrs. Henderson has asked me to clarify ownership before today's discussions continue." Levi's smile faltered. Rachel stiffened. Patricia's hand froze mid-gesture. One by one, the board members scanned the papers. The incorporation